This is the Daily Tech News Show for Wednesday, December 27th, 2017 from DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feeling at the Beach, I am Sarah Lane.
And of course, alongside with us is our producer, Roger Chang. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine this end of the month in December.
End of the month, December 27th. Welcome to our end-of-year listener co-host show. This is the annual episode where we invite some folks from our audience, in this case, supporters at the advisor level on Patreon, to appear with us, talk about some technology, talk about themselves, maybe ask a few questions, reveal a few things about the show. So please welcome John. How's it going?
Hello. How's it going, Tom?
Hey, John.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Matthew is here as well. Matthew, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And Paul Boyer is with us as well. How's it going?
It's going great. Going great. Got the first snow of the year, so everybody is crashing, but other than that, it's fine.
Good to know. All right, let's check. Let's start with you, John. What kind of technology stuff are you into? Is it with work? Is it at home? Is it both? What gets you into tech?
It's a bit of both. I started off with a lot of home stuff, building computers, learning about technology. I was fascinated with what computers could do. And as I've gotten older, I've learned a lot more, learned to help other people. Now I'm actually helping people build their own computers, which is a lot of fun. So it's just generally everything technology gets me excited for what's going to happen in the future.
Now, when you say you're helping people build their own computers as a hobby or for work?
That is for work.
Oh, cool. Well, you're probably pretty good at it then.
What was the first piece of tech that you were into?
That's hard to say. Probably desktop computers. Because when I started off, it was kind of desktop computers or, bigger stuff. So my dad would bring home parts or whole computers. He'd let me play with them. Mostly playing off to start, but eventually I learned how they worked. I learned how to build them, how to fix them, and it's taken off from there.
Excellent. What was the era of processor in those computers?
The first ones were probably early 286, 386 machines.
Okay, yeah, so that's way back. That's back when I was getting my first actual real desktop that wasn't like a Commodore 64 or something. Was an IBM PS2 with a 286 processor in it.
Early high school for me.
Yeah.
Back then.
So how did you stumble across us?
I literally was like, I need to have something technology related to listen to. So I downloaded a random podcast app, which ended up being Podcast Addict. And I went to the search, and I searched tech news. And DTNS was the first thing to pop up.
Oh, wow.
I gave you guys a listen along a few other things. And you were the ones that I was like, these guys know what they're talking about. These guys are fun to listen to. So been listening ever since.
Excellent. All right. So what kind of questions can we answer for you on our end?
Well, I've seen a bit of the behind the scenes for you, what your day is like, getting ready for the show, doing the headlines and everything. So I'm wondering, what's it like for Roger as the producer getting ready for the show? Because he's usually in the background.
Typically my day starts around 7:30. I roll out of bed behind me, and I go through all the news that we normally have. I basically have an RSS reader, and I have at least 8 to 10 news sites listed that I get feeds from, and I go through them and I start pulling stories that I drop into the rundown. And I also start going and following up on emails I've made in the previous part of the week. So if there's emails that I've sent for guests, or for example, for CES, I had to do a lot of back and forth. I check on that, basically to make sure a lot of the bits that are underneath the show that get guests on the show that get us access to things that we need to get access to verify various aspects. For example, perhaps the design of the show, or ensuring that any questions that viewers may have with, for example, my podcatcher did not get the show. I need help, whether it comes over Twitter or some other feed. I'm following up on that to make sure that, oh, indeed, that person did finally get the show via the app that they have. So, trying troubleshooting, booking guests, and following up with logistics.
Cool. And how about you, Sarah?
Sending my kid to school.
What does my day look like? Well, for anybody who listens to headlines, I do them on Wednesday. So my Wednesday is a little different because I do that in the morning. But otherwise, I have a few other projects that I juggle along with DTNS. And so in the morning, depending on what else I have to do, depends on what time I get up in the morning, but kind of mostly drinking my coffee, having a little breakfast, looking at news, trying to figure out what's important, and also trying to figure out what's important for this show. And sometimes people on my block get a little crazy.
They're excited about the new year.
Yeah, woo, love the show. But yeah, so it's kind of like it's a solitary life for a few hours in the morning, and then we do this. And Roger and Tom and I usually, after we say goodbye to everybody, we do a little housekeeping, figure out what's going on, not only for the next day, but stuff that's coming up. CES would be one of those, or, what is our holiday schedule like? And just, it's just, there's always something. And then, we kind of go back to doing our research stuff until the next day. The daily tech thing is something that I'm used to and comfortable with, and it kind of keeps me honest so that my schedule doesn't deviate too much.
Yeah. You can't stay away.
Can't do it. Yeah. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
All right. So we'll have some time maybe to get a few more questions around the horn, but I don't want Matthew and Paul to just be sitting there doing nothing. So let's get to Matthew and find out what is it that you do with technology, both home and away?
Well, at work, I manage everything, regarding everything IT. I'm a dude named Ben, sysadmin, taking care of servers, networking side, desktop support. We're kind of a small company, only about 50 people. So I wear many hats around here.
Yeah, you got all the hats, it sounds like.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then what kind of tech do you like to do on your off time, or is it all leave it at work?
No, it definitely doesn't all leave it at work, and it follows me home. Much to the chagrin of my kids or my girlfriend or whatever. Trying to run all that stuff at home. Yeah, I think they get frustrated with Alexa doing this or other things going on around the house. It's like, in fact, my girlfriend just before the show, she's like, how come Alexa can't turn on the Christmas tree? I don't know. But well, why isn't this working? Things like that.
That's one of those things where the answer, but you're like, I can't explain this to you right now. Like there's just too many steps involved.
Right. It's just like, I don't know why it's not working for you. I know that it does work, but why it's not working right this minute, I don't know.
Being the tech hero is a blessing and a curse.
It is. It's definitely a blessing and a curse.
So how'd you end up stumbling across DTNS?
I followed you from TNT, actually. So when you left, it was like, oh, hey, where's Tom going now? It's like, not to speak ill of the old show, but just like it wasn't quite the same. So I ended up following you to this the new show, and I like it, and so I've just kind of been sticking with it ever since.
Well, you've been a great supporter of it. I appreciate that. Although it does bring up the question, how'd you find TNT in the first place then?
Well, Twit always was, been around forever, but I never really, I don't know. I never was really big into podcasts for a long time, and then all of a sudden just like, I just kind of got into the groove, I guess, and just started listening to them. And now I have, a dozen different podcasts and it's just kind of how it worked out, I guess.
Do you have any question for us?
Well, you said, one time you had mentioned that you wish you hadn't done a daily tech news show. It's so what would you do instead? If you had to go back and start all over, what kind of format would you do instead?
Here's the thing. Here's the secret truth of that for me. And Sarah kind of alluded to it for her earlier. I just can't stop doing daily tech news. So when I said that, I was like stepping outside of myself and saying, objectively, people who do daily things are insane because it's harder. You have to do them every day. And they take up time. So I don't know. I mean, if I had to do it all over again, if I had to start all over again right now, maybe I would tilt it to be more headlinesy on the daily side, and then discussion once a week where I could really dig in and prepare for that. So I could spend more time on main topics or something. But I don't know. I have a feeling it would just end up eventually drifting into exactly what's going on now.
I think most people who do daily content, it doesn't have to be about tech, but just daily content, and for our purposes, live as well. It used to be live TV, now it's live on the internet. Same idea. We all complain about the same stuff, like, oh, it's such a grind, it never ends. It's Groundhog Day every day. But it's also really comforting.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do. There's a structure. You know a lot about stuff that other people don't know about. I know a few of you have alluded to, you're the tech person in the household. It's like, so many of my friends are like, Sarah just knows so much about tech. And I'm like, it's my job. I mean, it's fun, but it's like, I get something from it as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely a routine, I think, since all of us actually kind of rolled out of Ziff Davis EDT or Tech TV back in the day. I mean, it's even when I wasn't doing this particular job, I kind of still had the same routine, kind of out of habit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll check these.
We know no other life, Matthew.
Yeah, it's like if we're not doing it for a job, we're going to do it anyway. So why not combine the two and make it easier on ourselves?
Right. I mean, if it was like the same thing, if I work in tech, it's like doing, fixing computers and networking and everything else. If I didn't do that, I'm not really sure what I would be doing.
Yeah. You'd probably be the guy that people came to fix their computers anyway, even if that wasn't your job.
I just wouldn't be getting paid for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you might as well get paid for it.
Right.
Paul, let's check in with you. What is it that you do both in your day and I don't want to say evening life, but in your work and your personal tech?
In this case, it's true that it's my day and my evening life. I'm a video game developer. Sorry, but I've been a tech nerd forever. So I started with a Timex Sinclair 2068 that I talked my grandma into buying me after watching War Games. So I've been around for a while, and I was a giant tech TV fan. And then that kind of had led to this diaspora of all you guys going out. And so then Twit, and then after you guys left TNT, I kept watching while Sarah was on. But then I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, hey, Tom's got another show. And then like a month after I discovered it, you kind of became my default tech news show, weekly show, daily show. So after that, I just pretty much, you became my source of tech news. So I'm very grateful.
So is there anything about your video game development that you can talk about? I don't want to get you in trouble or anything, but
nothing we're working on right now is particularly secret. I was the lead designer on Galactic Civilizations 3, which is a turn-based strategy game. And right now I'm working on an expansion for that. And I'm also working on Star Control Origins, which is,
the old Star Control.
Yeah. Well, it's a whole story. That's something you should Google, but but yeah, we're working on that. And so I'm bouncing back and forth between that, but yeah, I just work, as all poor game industry people do.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I was just going to ask, I always ask this to people who actually work developing video games. How much do you play them, since you are working on the back end much more than the average gamer would?
Well, you play your own games, but then they're not fun because you're just looking at problems. So I tend to play games that are not the type of games we make. So like I'm a big Fallout, Oh, you can see behind me. I got some Fallout stuff.
Oh.
Fallout Skyrim fan. I'm actually working on a large scale Fallout mod in my spare time because that's, I can't play a game and start without going, oh, what would I do here? And blah, 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 blah. So, but yeah, I get to play them less than I would like, but I try and get a couple again, usually over Christmas break.
And do you find it a grind, or do you just get in it and you're like, it doesn't matter what game it is, I just love coding?
It can be a grind. We had a game that didn't do so well a few years ago called Elemental, and at one point I worked, an extra month in a 3-month period, where it was like working from 9 to 2 every day for 3 months straight.
It's hard enough if the game succeeds, but if it doesn't meet its expectations, that's even harder.
As long as you're excited about the project, the grind isn't a big deal. If you are like, oh my God, this isn't going to work, then it becomes a problem. So right now I'm pretty happy. And also because of Elemental, we readjusted a little to have more flexible hours. So it's been less bad for the last 5 years. So yeah, it's great. I love it. A lot of work though.
What about your leisure tech?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a giant nerd. I have all of the, I have Echoes everywhere, and I just got the iPhone 10, and I'm still trying to figure out whether I like it or not. So, but I buy whatever I can afford.
And Matthew didn't set off your Echoes when he was mentioning her name earlier?
No. Well, I have a headphone on. He
didn't
might set
mine
it off
either, so that's good.
later.
Maybe they're getting better.
So.
Yeah.
Well, mine get set off on random words off the TV at home. They don't even have to say the magic word.
Yeah. I had a situation where I was in front of my Echo Show, which is in the kitchen. I asked it something, and the one in the living room answered. I'm like, how does that? Are you asleep? What? It's just weird. Yeah. All right. Paul, do you have any questions for us?
Oh, well, I had like a couple, but really the main one it's more of an observation with how do you guys feel about this is one of the main reasons I stick with you, and I'm mostly referring to Tom because he's like the Zen master, is that you seem to not get too biased. You're very careful about the bias, and you try and avoid the politics and everything like that. So I feel like I can listen to you and get like a fair reporting of what's going on. So how much do you feel that contributes to the success or detriment of the show in general?
That's a great question. I don't know is the honest answer, but yeah, I do try to at least correct for my own biases, if not try to present multiple viewpoints on things and think, well, okay, now wait a minute. What would somebody who doesn't like that particular ecosystem or doesn't have that much money or has way more money, how would they look at this? And that helps me understand issues better. And I think if it does help the show, it's because it opens it up to people who are like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. It can hurt the show because one thing that grabs eyeballs is controversy. And if you're presenting all the sides, sometimes that can be controversial, but sometimes that people will go, well, that wasn't fun. He didn't sensationalize that issue, right? We didn't get to do a clickbait headline out of it.
I feel like that would end up, I feel like one of the things that happens like with Twitter, not Twitter, but with some other podcasts, is that you feel like they favor something. And then for you kind of start tuning out. So I think that it's really nice to have that neutrality, or at least a view of it.
Yeah, just try to be cognizant. I think all of us who work on the show try to be cognizant of that and take into account that there's all kinds of different people there. One thing I think DTNS particularly has improved upon is accounting for our own US-based perspective. We're never going to come off as a non-US based show, except when we have non-US based people on it, which is one of the reasons I love having Patrick. But I think if we account for that and say, well, I'm going to make sure that I look twice at stories that I might not have before because they're in China, because they're in Africa, because they're in Europe. I think we've gotten better at bringing in some really interesting stuff that way.
Okay, I have one last observation.
Whether or not we, think about it all that consciously day to day, it's like you would watch oh, I don't know. I'm not going to call it any show specifically, but a lot of TV shows where there's a tech pundit. You know, maybe I'd go on one of their shows and they'll be like, "You're the iPhone girl, right? So you're going to be, that's your thing." DTNS is not like that. In fact, you know, we try not to do too much of that. You know, that of course everybody likes what they like, but it's supposed to be fair, well-rounded, and that's not effortless, but it's a nice reminder every day to remember what is important to people, not just what's important to you, and, you know, really take the time to look through stories, and then you learn something. That's what I get at it anyway.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so we'll come back to everybody for at least one or two more questions. But John has been waiting patiently over there on. I say over there. The audio people can't see it, but he's over there on that side of the window.
I see him. He's right over there.
Yeah, he's right there. So John, do you have any more questions?
What is the worst thing about covering tech news?
Ooh, where do I start?
I think.
Yes, Roger.
I think one of the most obnoxious things, and I don't know if it translates as much as just sometimes the hype machine gets a little too much, and all you want to do is roll your eyes back, and your head feels like a slot machine because it's your eyes feel just constantly like they're turning because you hear because what ends up happening in a hype machine is you hear a lot of buzzwords. They don't. It's all very shallow. You don't really get enough detail, and that really, especially as a journalist, you can get kind of bugged because that's you live and breathe on details, right? Anyone can make broad, shallow suggestions or comments about their particular product or someone else's product, but I mean, what people really want is some like deep, meaty data to go with it, like, you know, oh, this battery lasts long enough for anyone to use it. Well, what does that mean? Is that all day typing? Is that all day browsing the web? I mean, there's all these things that people want to know because everyone has a different usage scenario for that particular product, right? The way I use a laptop is probably different than, say, someone who is working on their master's thesis in, like, you know, English history. Is, you know, so, you know, what's good for me might not be good for them, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's one of it. Is I've very carefully curated the outlets that I rely on for that very reason. There are places I know, okay, and even particular reporters at places, I'm like, this person's good at giving me the actual information and taking into account the questions that people will ask. So that is one of the worst things, is running into all these things where, like, okay, you say this happens, but you don't have a source, or you're not divulging where, or this or that. But that kind of goes along with the movement to outrage. And this is both on the side of the people who cover technology as well as the fans of technology who just want to jump all over something based on one sentence rather than actually understanding, well, wait a minute, why are they doing that? What's really going to be the outcome of that? I think, you know, that's a pervasive problem in all kinds of arenas right now. But I've been seeing that in technology ever since I started covering it.
I think if I had to choose one thing, tech often forces us to talk about very rich people and their money wars. I don't mean necessarily like individual people, but people who are in charge of very large companies, like which affect us. So it's relevant. But, you know, there are certain days where I'm like, if we could just not talk about these rich people trading money back and forth, it would be too soon.
Throwing money at each other, taking their apps off of each other's platforms.
But that, you know, maybe if I was extremely wealthy, I'd be like, this is so great. It's my people.
These are my friends.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Matthew, what about you? Do you have any other questions for us?
Well, you know, I was thinking about it the other day. You know, how come you don't do your tech history like every day? I mean, just start throwing that in there in the tech daily headlines or something, and just throw it in there every day.
I used to do it every day as a podcast, and it just didn't get that many people reading or subscribing to it. And it was one of those cost-benefit analyses of, I could use this time to be doing something else that more people are going to enjoy. And I can still do the tech history thing in other ways. So it's not like I won't do it. throwing it into the show, I don't know, because it wasn't that popular there. I guess that's why I've been like, I don't know if that would help the show or not. And we do try to keep the show real tight. Maybe we can start throwing it in the pre or the post show though, just as a delectable tidbit from time to time,
or
Yeah,
even
maybe.
as a headline. Maybe. I mean,
There you
not
go.
to create more work for all of us,
Yeah,
but like,
no, it's not like we don't do that when there's like a really big one, right? When
Yeah, that's
Windows
true.
turns 30, that goes in there. So yeah, we could make an effort to do it more often, even put it in as a quick
yeah,
hit,
people like it. Let us know.
quick history hit,
Oh,
quick hist.
quick
I mean,
history.
antihistamine. Paul, what about you? Do you have any other questions?
I guess the only other question I really had was, are you happy with the success of the show in its current iteration? And do you feel like there's stuff you're not big enough to do? Or are you more concerned about, oh God, we're getting too big, I have too much to do?
No. Well, okay. I'll pull my answer out of that. I'm very happy with the show, where the show is and where it's going. Bringing Sarah on has helped a ton. Having Roger around and Jenny before him has always been helpful. So I'm very pleased and stunned that we've been able to keep this going this long. I feel like, especially in that first year, I'm like, well, we'll ride this until it fades out, and then I'll do whatever comes next. So the fact that we've not only been able to keep it going, but keep it growing is incredibly satisfying. I do wish sometimes there was a way to, bring on more people or do some more experimental things where I could, give someone a little bit of money to try something out. It's kind of the idea behind DTNS Labs, even though that's more of what we're doing internally and there's not a lot of money behind it. It's the first step towards that. Because it'd be great. I mean, I'm sure Roger would agree. It'd be great to have a booker separate from a producer, and it would be great to have a switcher and little things like that. But overall, those are just small things that I'm like, oh well, if we had a little bit more resources, we could do that. We could do this. Maybe build up the merchandise in the store more, stuff like that.
I have to say, I am very, very impressed with the quality of the show, concerning the limited resources.
The three of us working on it,
but just for the three. I mean, it is really polished. I mean, I have been tangentially related to larger things that did not shine as well, or maybe even gloss. But no, it's just, I think it's a testament to Tom, to Sarah, and to the contributors like Scott and I mean, like there's Scott, Justin, Patrick, Veronica. I mean, it's just a quality set of people that it's amazing. Again, just having been in situations where you can have a lot of bodies together, it does not always translate into a quality product, which I think DTNS does generate.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we all want to do it. And we're doing it for you rather than, well, we have to do it because it's the job we could get. And it's not a deal, but, I'm doing it for this corporate overlord. So whatever. And even when I was doing it in big companies, I still enjoyed most of what I did. But there's something extra about like, wow, there's no filter. It's just me and Sarah and Roger in the audience.
Well, and instead of just being like, oh, people are complaining on the forums, man, or people are, don't look at the comments. It's like, we look at all of that stuff because it really is a group effort. And that, I mean, at least for me, when I know that there are people who care as much as I do, if not more, it's very motivating.
Yeah. Agreed. Any other questions from any of the three of you before we wrap up here?
Why do you have a globe covering up Pilot X on your bookshelf?
Why do I have a glow?
A globe.
The globe.
Oh, you know what? I was actually using Pilot X to cover a reflection. That's why that's that way. I think what you're saying is maybe I should put my own book visible and use something else to cover the reflection.
Yeah, Tom.
Wise.
I thought you were being modest, so I like the reflection excuse better.
No, in fact, I should put Citadel 32, which is actually about the moon, behind the moon. That would make more sense.
There you go.
What do you got, John, Matthew? Any other questions from you guys?
Are all those books real? Or, I mean, do they all have significance to you, or were they just there for just for looks?
No, they are not only all real 3-dimensional books, but they're all my books. They're books that I had on the shelf for my own reasons, and then when we shifted things around, we just took books off the shelf and said, okay, which ones look good? So I can't say I've read every single one of them, but some of them go back to when I was in Austin working at the bookstore back there.
Also, Tom has, in the room that he's in, I know you only see one view, but there are a lot more books in that room.
Yeah.
There are perhaps thousands of books in that room.
And honestly, this is a cut down version of what I used to have when I lived in Austin. When I moved from Austin to San Francisco, I couldn't take all the books that I had at the time with me. So it's a problem.
Well, thanks to Kindle, you don't have that problem so much anymore, right? I mean,
well, that's true. I don't acquire books that I read as much because they're on Kindle, but because of Sword and Laser, I get review copies sent to me. That's a whole different problem, because some of those are books I'm like, I don't even know who this is, but okay. But we're figuring out ways. If you're a Sword and Laser listener, keep watch for ways to get some of those books. John, any last question from you?
What else is on the shelf back there? I see some non-book items.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a globe of the universe. There's Len Peralta's picture of Django. There's a gavel. There's a moon globe. Mike McLaughlin's hat from when he was in the Army. DTNS award, podcast award. A slide rule. A handwritten list of equipment that I screen capped and tweeted to the We Have Concerns people. A couple of Diamond Club things, the great DTNS and Diamond Club signs. That's most of it.
Cool.
What's on your wall behind you, Sarah?
Got some plants. That's a map of London. It's kind of weird, but the river might be familiar to some of you. Cat poster, because whatever. This you really can't see. When I put it up on the wall, I thought it would, I don't know, be more impactful. It's all pictures of Paris that I posted on Instagram that don't contain people.
Oh.
Anyway, had a lot of them, so I decided to print it out and frame it. Another plant, my dad, this thing that some woman made me a long time ago. Some of these books actually came from Tom.
Yes.
It was like Tom being like, too many books, take some books. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, just sort of general ambiance. And I think I might have mentioned this while we were live in a recent show. My goal, sooner than later, is to move this studio into my bedroom, which is actually the bigger room. I have 2 bedrooms. This is quite a small room, actually, because I was like, well, hold on a second. If I only sleep in my bedroom and I don't care about the extra space, why is the bigger room my bedroom? It makes no sense. So hopefully, perhaps by the new year, I'll have a little bit more depth going on. But I'll probably recreate something like this because, I don't know, I think it looks okay.
And Roger, what's
you better hurry up. There's only a few days left.
That's right.
Oh, right. I know.
For the new year there, Sarah.
Yeah, good point.
Get on it. Roger has a bed.
I have a bed. I have a nightstand. I have another desk behind me, and a closet filled with things I need to organize.
Toys.
The bed is always made at Roger's house.
Always.
Wait a minute. No, it's not.
Oh.
Well, no. It's made in time for the show.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us and for supporting us on Patreon. You guys are the best.
No problem.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And thanks for being here. It takes courage to, just kind of come into a show, and everybody had really good stories, and it's nice to see you all.
Let's go around the horn. If you have anything to tell folks about, like your Twitter following or a website or maybe game, I'll give you a chance to say it now. Paul, what about you?
Well, Galactic Civilizations 3. It's on sale a lot these days because it's old. And Star Control Origins is now available for pre-order. So those will affect me directly, and maybe plugging them will get me some credit at work. I don't know. But yeah, I don't really do much besides work and run. So and listen to DTNS. So.
Well, Paul, thanks so much for joining us, man. It was really cool talking to you.
All right.
Matthew, what about you?
Well, you can follow, I'm on Gadget Virtuoso just about everywhere. So if you want to follow me there, that's great. The company I work for, Game Circus, we do a bunch of different mobile games. They're, family-friendly games for your kids and for anybody. We've got a new game that's like a strategy type, P2P type game that's, if you're in the Philippines or, a couple other countries that we're still rolling out, but look for it, early next year. It should be out everywhere.
Excellent. Always a pleasure chatting with you in Slack or elsewhere, man.
Always. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah. And likewise for you, John, you're like one of the other super active guys in our Slack.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun being in Slack. I love talking to other people about tech and what's going on, and occasionally just cats and random things.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with talking about cats.
Cats are fun.
I have a cat. Yeah, cats. Yeah.
Love cats. Keep them coming.
Keep more cats coming. If folks want to find out more about what's going on with you, is there any place they should go? Or
you can find me on Twitter, which I'm not terribly active on, but I'm there at Dr_X17. And I have a new website that may or may not have something on it. TTNS.tech. Taco Tech News Shack.
This sounds amazing.
It will be.
Does it involve actual taco talk?
It may involve some tacos, but it's probably going to be a little more tech.
Yeah.
Just in a taco, like tech in a shell.
Yeah. It's all the best things in life. Tacos, tech, shacks.
All the best.
Wish I had thought of it.
Paul, John, thank you so much. And thank you, all three of you guys, for joining us. And thanks to everybody else who's out there listening and supporting us and keeping us going into the new year. We're going to be at CES. If you're going to be there, look for us in the Central Hall. We'll be in the broadcast tower doing our show every day. We'll also be at the evening press events as well. And that's because so many of you support us. So thank you for that. Patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We are live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC at both alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And if you ever want to just catch up on anything, dailytechnewsshow.com is the place to go.
Excellent. We'll be back tomorrow with our 2017 prediction results. We'll check in and see how we did right here at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.